Tonight we'll continue with our study of Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu. And tonight we will study chapter 15 of the Nectar of Devotion in pursuance of our Bhakti Shastri degree. Chapter 15, I've been looking forward to studying this because chapter 15 is entitled Spontaneous Devotional Service. In Sanskrit, we know this as Rag Anuga Bhakti. I think all of us have heard of this term, Rag Anuga Bhakti. But some devotees may not understand what the term refers to. So, in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu, it explains there are three levels of bhakti. Sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti. These are the three stages of bhakti. Now, sadhana bhakti has two qualities, which we've heard of early on. Kleshagni and Shubhada. Shubhada means when you practice sadhana, you develop good qualities. And Kleshagni means your distress becomes mitigated. That's sadhana bhakti. All of us are experiencing that because we're practicing sadhana. So we're feeling our distress is being mitigated to a great degree, and good qualities are beginning to manifest in our consciousness. When you get to the platform of bhava bhakti, the two features that manifest are called moksha, lakhu, takrit, and sudulabha. Sudulabha means it's rare to get to the platform of bhava. Bhava means you understand your swabhava or your sthayi bhav, your eternal relationship with Krishna. The bhava or the emotional, the sentiment that goes with that. I'm a gopi, I'm a cowherd boy, I'm one of Krishna's elders. So you'll have that feeling, that bhava, that's bhava bhakti. That's rare. And moksha lakhu takrit means everything else, including liberation, which is the greatest goal, the highest achievement. Even that becomes insignificant compared to understanding your eternal relationship with Krishna. And then we have prema bhakti. And prema bhakti has two qualities, which are Sandrananda Visheshatma and Sri Krishna Kashani. Sandrananda Visheshatma means the bliss of prema when you actually have love for Krishna. When you have love for Krishna, it means you see Krishna. You see him face to face, just like we're seeing each other now. You see Krishna, and the bliss is indescribable. You know, it's something beyond our perception. I mean, we're blissful already. I feel blissful in sadhana bhakti, but this bliss is another level. It's the bliss of being with Krishna once again. And Sri Krishna Kashani means prema bhakti controls Krishna. Krishna actually comes under the control of the devotee. That's how powerful prema bhakti is. So these are three levels of bhakti which are described in the first side of the ocean of the Nectar of Devotion, the eastern side. We hear about sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti. So the chapter we've just arrived at is chapter 15. So chapter 15 and 16 are talking about spontaneous devotional service, which is called Raga Anuga Bhakti. Up until now, from chapter 6 up until chapter 13, was a description of Vaiti Sadhana Bhakti. There are two types of sadhana, in other words. That's the point we're making. There are two types of sadhana. The first sadhana is called Vaiti. Vaiti means following rules. Vaiti Sadhana Bhakti means you're following the rules. Why do you follow the rules? Because of a certain amount of fear. If I don't follow them, I'll get reactions, or I'll disobey the order of the spiritual master, or, you know, there's different motivations for us to follow, but it's not necessarily spontaneous. Sometimes we do things because we have to. I have to chant my rounds. I have to go to Mangalati. I have to milk the cows. I have to, it's like these are rules and regulations. Sometimes bhakti is like that. So that is called Vaiti Sadhana Bhakti. It's good because maybe we're doing it out of fear. Maybe we're doing it because we have to do it, or because we feel if we don't do it, something negative will happen to us. But it's good because at least we're going towards Krishna, which is positive. However, the higher or the second type of sadhana is called Rag Anuga Sadhana Bhakti. Rag Anug means, Rag means spontaneous attachment. The word rag, one definition of the word rag in Sanskrit is color. Just like if you take a white sheet, you put it in dye, it turns blue, turns red, turns green, turns yellow, turns purple, orange, according to the rag or the color which it comes in contact with. So rag bhakti, raganuga bhakti, ragatmika bhakti means it is colored by a spontaneous mood of attraction to Krishna. So that's rag anuga bhakti. It means we're not doing the service because we have to do it, or because there's fear that we will get a reaction. We just want to do it. Spontaneous. Rag means spontaneous attachment to Krishna. So it's a more intimate type of bhakti. If one stays on the platform of rules and regulations, Vaiti, which means rules and regulations, that will take one to Vaikuntha, which is wonderful, because the spiritual world, you live with the Lord. But those who follow Rag Anuga Sadhana, that directs them towards Vrindavan, which in ISKCON, which in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that is what they're aiming for, Braj Bhakti. They want to become Brijbasis, or followers of the servants of Krishna in Vrindavan. So this type of bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, leads to spontaneous attachment in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, because they have spontaneous attachment to Krishna. So I hope this is making sense. Yeah. I hope it's making sense that these are the two types of bhakti. They're both sadhana. This is the point. Raganuga Bhakti is not perfection. It is sadhana. It is a practice. But it's a practice which is based upon something spontaneous, and it's based upon the desire to go towards serving Krishna in Vrindavan. So it's a sadhana. Now, in ISKCON, sometimes devotees ask, which one are we following? So what is the answer? Which one are we following? Vaidhi Sadhana or Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti? Start off with Vaidhi. Yeah. Yeah, we're actually following both even from the very beginning, because we focus on Radha Krishna. We worship the deities of Radha Krishna from the first day we walk in, not Lakshmi Narayan. We chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is made up of the names of Radha and Krishna. We worship Tulsi Devi, and we sing prayers to Tulsi Devi. Oh, Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is that you make me a resident a follower of the cowherd damsels of Braj. These are the prayers that we do from the day that we join the movement. So this is a mixture, because we're doing it out of rules and regulations. We get up for Mangalati because we're told to, we have to. But combined within that is spontaneous devotional service from the very beginning. And the more we fan that, the more we cultivate that, then the more that will become progressive in our consciousness. So that's what we're aiming for. So that now, Rupa Goswami is going to spend 2 chapters discussing Rag Anuga sadhana bhakti. So the word anuga means to follow those who have rag, or spontaneous attachment to Krishna, which is the resonance of Vrindavan. So it's called raganuga sadhana, that practice. So there's many points in this chapter. This one chapter we could discuss for several classes, but we'll just keep it to one class. So the second wave of the Eastern Ocean deals with sadhana bhakti, which has two divisions, Vaidhi and Raganuga. Chapters 2 through 14 have described Vaidhi sadhana. Chapters 15 and 16 describe Raganuga sadhana. Raganuga sadhana is a devotional practice that strives to cultivate the moods of Krishna's associates in Vrindavan. Thus, before describing Raganuga sadhana, we must first describe the moods of devotional attachment found in Vrindavan's eternal residence. So, this is an important point. This is what Raganuga sadhana means. It means to follow the Rag Atmika devotion. Rag Atmika. Atmika means the soul, Atma. Atmika. Rag means their entire soul is made up of spontaneous attraction and attachment to Krishna in the mood of conjugal ras, sakya ras, friendship, or vasalya ras, parental mood. Not pure dasha. Dasha does exist in Vrindavan, but it's not pure dasha. Not like what Hanuman has or like that. It's not based on awe and reverence. It does exist there. Krishna has servants, and they're in the mood of dasha, but they see him as the son of Nanda Maharaj, as opposed to the Supreme Lord. So there is a difference in the mood. So this is Rag Anuga sadhana. You follow the Rag Atmika devotees. Now, one time, Jamuna Devi, because when we read the Nectar of Instruction, which we studied before this, it describes that the same instruction is given. One must follow in the footsteps of a particular resident of Vrindavan. That's one of the verses of the Nectar of Instruction, which is the same teaching that we're getting now. And Jamuna Devi, who's very famous in ISKCON, she sings the Govindam prayers, which we sing every day. You know, she's immortalized. Her voice will be heard every day for the next 10,000 years in temples all over the world. Jamuna Devi, she once said to Prabhupada, she read that verse in the Nectar of Instruction, that we have to follow a eternal resident of Vrindavan. She came to Prabhupada, she said, Prabhupada, are you one of those residents, or are you that resident? Prabhupada said, yes, you can think like that. So in another way in ISKCON, if we follow Prabhupada with great surrender and devotion and attachment, that will lead to Raganuga sadhana bhakti if that's cultivated properly. Because Prabhupada is a resident of Vrindavan, and he had spontaneous attraction to Krishna. So by meditating on him and his service mood and assisting him, that will lead us to understanding Raganuga bhakti, Ragatmika bhakti, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says that if we dive deep into the ocean of service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is what ISKCON is, serving Prabhupada and serving ISKCON is diving deep into the Sankirtan movement in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that will bring us up on the shore of the worship and the service of Radha Krishna. So that mood that Prabhupada extricated from us and imbibed in us, the mood of surrender to Krishna, surrender in our service, that leads to spontaneous attachment to Radha and Krishna. If you serve the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada very carefully, and your gurus, that will lead to spontaneous attachment. So, The Nectar of Devotion uses the term Raganuga to denote the devotional attachment of Vrindavan's resonance. This is on page 119. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, however, Srila Prabhupada directly translated the corresponding text from Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu, and therein reveals the correct term to be Rag Atmika. A Rag Atmika Bhakta embodies the perfection of spontaneous love for Krishna, and a Raganuga Bhakta follows in the wake of the pure devotees, earnestly endeavoring to achieve their perfect mood in spontaneous love. The following texts prove that this is the proper use of terminology. So this is from Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 154 of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Virajantim api vyaktam rajabasi janadishu ragatmikam anusrita yasa raganu goj yate. Devotional service in spontaneous love is vividly expressed and manifested in the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Devotional service that accords with their devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti, or devotional service following in the wake of spontaneous loving service. So I think it's clear that the Ragatmika devotees are the resonance of Vrindavan. Their soul, their Atma, Atmika, is made of spontaneous attachment to Krishna, Rag. And those of us who are trying to follow in their mood of service and trying to focus on their mood, that is called Rag Anuga Bhakti. So it's important to understand these two terms. We're not Rag Atmika devotees. We're trying to be Rag Anuga devotees, following the footsteps. Then from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:150, Ishte Swarasaki Raga Parama Vishchata Bhavet Tanmayi Ya Bhavet Bhakti Satla Ragat Mikodita. When one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his natural inclination to love is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. That is called transcendental attachment. And devotional service according to that attachment is called Ragatmika, or spontaneous devotional service. So, Prabhupada says within the Bhagavad Gita, near the end of the 11th chapter or the 12th chapter, Prabhupada says we should focus the mind only on the form of Krishna. And he actually writes we should not divert our attention to any other form of God, which is quite an amazing statement. Prabhupada says, don't even divert your attention to another form of God, another Vishnu form, Nrsimhadev, Ram, all these different forms of God. Prabhupada says, just focus your consciousness on the form of Krishna. And he goes further to say, the form of Krishna in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada writes that, which means Prabhupada must have been a bridgebasi to write something like that. And this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood, that we should just focus our mood following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching this mood of service. And we should focus in our consciousness. We should, if we want to, follow in the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada himself and our Guru Maharajas, then we should focus our mind just on the form of Krishna in Vrindavan. That's why all over ISKCON, Prabhupada installed Radha Ballabha, Radha Shyama Radha Rasbihari, Radha Londonishwara, Radha Parashishwara, Radha Gopinath, Radha Giridhari, right? All over the world. Prabhupada installed Radha Krishna deities for that purpose. Radha Shyama, so many, Radha Madhava, so that we focus our consciousness on that form. Don't even divert your attention to another form, right? That is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. So then another verse to substantiate this point from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:152. Ragamayi bhakti haya ragatmika nama taha shuni lubda haya kona bhagyavan. This devotional service, which consists of raga, deep attachment, is called ragatmika. Spontaneous loving service. If a devotee covets such a position, he is considered to be most fortunate. So that is the essence of Raganuga Bhakti, right? We have to develop the mood of lopa. Lopa means covetousness. Greed is the simple definition. Lopa. Lopa is something we all know well. We're greedy in this world. Everyone's greedy. We're greedy for prasadam. We're greedy for pizza. We love it. All of us love it. We could, devour pizza, pakora, or samosa, or gulab jamun, or shrikand, or whatever your favorite prasadam is. We're greedy for it. Up until this stage of my life, if devotees walk past me with a plate of gulab jamuns, then on Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja every year, they make as an offering to Srila Prabhupada. And, quite often we have the kirtan, and then, we come out of the temple after the kirtan. And then devotees are, getting their feast plates. Many times devotees have walked past me and I'm going to the line to get my prasadam, and they walk past with a feast plate with a gulab jamun. I just take it off straight in my mouth. I've done that many times. Why? Greed. Right? Is it spiritual greed or material greed? In my case, it's material greed. Right? Just, I like the taste of it and I want it, I just take it. Which is not a bad thing in the sense that one should be greedy for Krishna's prasadam. At least we're greedy for something good, which is good, which is positive. But the point is, if we can understand that consciousness, or Rupa Goswami, the way a young boy thinks about a young girl in this world, young boys and young girls, we've all been through the experience, or a young girl thinks of a young boy. When you're attached to someone, when you're young, and even when you get older, it can happen. We just become fixated on the person. We practically can't think about anything else, except for, this particular young girl or this particular young boy. So Rupa Goswami says we should think like that in relationship to Krishna. Spontaneous. No one has to tell you, oh, think of that girl. You just say, I'm already doing it. Think of the boy. No, you're already doing it. Or if you're attached, if you're greedy for a particular type of prasadam, they're cooking gulab jamuns, they've been offered. And, you can't, and then you're in the class, but all you're thinking about is, oh, I can't wait for this person to finish speaking, and then I can go and have gulab jamuns. This is greed. This is lopa. So the point is, we have these material examples to show us, give us an example of what the consciousness is like. what spontaneous consciousness is like. Spontaneous consciousness is, I want it now. I have to have it now. Nothing can stop me from having it. That's spontaneous consciousness. So we need, as aspiring devotees, we need to develop that consciousness in relation to Krishna. That's called Rag Anuga Bhakti, right? We're like that with Krishna. I just need to chant his holy name. I just need to worship his deity. I just need to honor his prasadam. I just need to hear his glories. I just need to visit his holy dham. I just need to associate with the devotees who have attachment to him, right? But this is spontaneous bhakti, spontaneous devotional service. So that's the, Rupa Goswami says, that is the price you must pay. That is the qualification to practice Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. It is greed, spontaneous attachment to Krishna. So that is called spontaneous greed. That's the price or the qualification that we need to cultivate in order to attain Krishna consciousness. In the next text, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya, Leela, chapter 22, 153, Krishnadas Kaviraj writes, Lope, Braja, Vasira, Bhave Kare, Anugati, Shastra Yukti Nahi Mane, Raganugara, Prakriti. To covet the devotional mood of the Ragatmika devotees is the nature of Raganuga. So the conclusion is, these texts clearly establish that Ragatmika Bhakti is the perfect devotional attachment found in the resonance of Vrindavan, and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is the practice of a devotee who aspires to develop their devotional mood. So I think it's clear. That is our mood. That is what we have to cultivate. This is the mood of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, it's the mood of Prabhupada, it's the mood of ISKCON, and the mood of our gurus. We need to cultivate that mood. So the meaning of Ragatmika, to break the word down, literally Ragatmika means one whose very essence, Atman, is intense attachment to Krishna, Rag. Rag also means color, as we explained. The passions of this world are only weak and perverted reflections of the range of spiritual emotion in the spiritual world. So in other words, the examples we gave in this world of boys being attached to girls, girls being attached to boys, and so forth, these moods are just perverted reflection of the original moods, which are there within the eternal associates of Krishna and with Krishna. Krishna is spontaneously attracted to Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani is spontaneously attracted to Krishna. Everything in this world is just a perverted reflection of that consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore defines Ragatmika Bhakti as spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts of it, with an intense desire of love. That's from Nectar of Devotion, page 119. We find intense absorption only in Vrindavan, although it is present to a lesser degree in Mathura and Dwarka. The reason for this was explained in the second chapter of this book. So only in Vrindavan do you have pure, spontaneous love, which is free from awe and reverence. In other words, in Vrindavan, Aishwarya means opulence. The opulence in Vrindavan is actually superior to the opulence in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the most opulent abode, right? It's full of palaces, courtyards, chariots. It's opulent. beyond imagination. But Vrindavan is more opulent, but the opulence of Vrindavan is a rural type of opulence. In other words, it's different to the atmosphere and the mood in Vaikuntha, as an example. So the Aishwarya is there. Everything is, it says the paving, the mosaics on the ground where everyone walks. For example, around Radha Kund and Shama Kund, right? There are jeweled mosaics, jeweled patterns. The jewels are real. It's not like in this world where, we couldn't afford to do that. Imagine like we're sitting in a room now, quite a large room, 7 meters by 14 meters. It's quite a large room. Imagine if the whole floor was encrusted with tiles, which were encrusted with precious gems and jewels. Unimaginable wealth. That's what Vrindavan is like. That's what Vaikuntha is like, but Vrindavan is even more opulent. But it's in a rural setting. It's in a forest setting. Right? Incredible Aishwarya, incredible opulence. But the Madhurya means the sweetness of the relationship with Krishna as a cowherd boy, a member of the village, the son of the king of Braj, Brajendra Nandana, that eclipses the Aishwarya. It's concomitant or just part of the life there. No, everything's beautiful. But so be it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Wow, wonderful. But it doesn't eclipse their spontaneous mood towards Krishna. He's my friend. He is my lover. He is my child. Right? That overrides everything. Like we see in the example of Mother Yashoda when Krishna eats the earth, eats the dirt. Open your mouth. She looks in. What's going on? Yep. Looks again. Now it's back to normal. Must have had a dream or a vision. Her love for Krishna as her child was so strong, it eclipsed the Aishwarya. She saw it, but she had to let go of it immediately. Maybe I was just seeing things. I'm hallucinating, I don't know. Lala, my boy, don't eat dirt. Couldn't break her mood. That's Vrindavan. The mood cannot be broken. The spontaneous mood cannot be broken. So that is Ragatmika Bhakti. That is what we're aiming to follow as if we practice Raganuga Bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami divides Ragatmika Bhakti into two categories. Kama Rupa, sensual attraction, and Sambandha Rupa, relationship. Devotees experiencing Kama Rupa feel an intense desire to satisfy the Lord in conjugal love. Sambandha Rupa includes devotees who experience an intense desire to satisfy the Lord as his parent, friend, or intimate servant. The word Sambandha means relationship. Sambandha, two types of Raganuga, Ragatmika Bhakti are there. Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Sambandha means relationship. He is my friend. He is my son. He is my Lord and Master. But then the other type, and Rupa Goswami differentiates. He says the other type is Kama Rupa. Kama Rupa means calm. Calm means lust. But a very important point, and this will be explained, the lust of the gopis of Vrindavan, it is not material lust. It can be likened to what we see as lust in this world. And therefore, we call it Kama Rupa. Rupa means form. like lust. That's literally what it means, like lust. But it's not obviously what we go through in this world. In the Caitanya Charitamrita, it says, the definition of karma is atmendriya priti, atma indriya. I want to satisfy my senses. That's karma. That's lust. Krishnendriya priti, the definition of prema, is we want to satisfy the indriya or the senses of Krishna. That's prema. I don't care about my senses. If my senses are satisfied while serving Krishna, so be it. But Krishna's senses must be satisfied. All right, so that is called Kama Rupa, Kama Nuga. Kama Rupa means, in other words, Rupa Goswami, because Rupa Goswami, as we know, is a Manjari, is the intimate maidservant of Srimati Radharani herself. And ultimately, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was absorbed, especially in conjugal ras, Gopi Bhav and Radha Bhav. Then that's why the differentiation or the emphasis is especially there on Kama Rupa, on conjugal love, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and our Acharyas have especially been focused on this type of love, which is called Kama Rupa, conjugal love. Then, Srimad Bhagavatam 7, Canto 7, Chapter 1, Text 31 is quoted. My dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. So Rupa Goswami quotes this verse to substantiate his statement that there are 2 types of ragatmika bhakti. This will be explained further in the later section. The main point of Narada's statement is that we should somehow or other absorb our mind in Krishna. If we do so by any of the methods mentioned in this verse, we can become purified and obtain the supreme destination. For example, Kamsa and Shishupal feared and envied Krishna, but their emotion caused them to think about him obsessively. Thus, they were purified to such an extent that they achieved the same destination as that of the gopis. So we have to be very careful. That's called anukul and pratikul. Anukul means favorable intent. Pratikul means unfavorable. So Shishupal and Kamsa, they thought of Krishna all the time. Kamsa out of fear, because it was prophesied at the time of Krishna's birth, a voice came from the sky. A divine sound came from the sky. Imagine you hear in the sky, Kamsa, you are a fool. The 8th child of Devaki is already born somewhere in this world and will kill you. That would shake you. And Kamsa was extremely powerful. But, there was a divine voice coming from the sky saying to him, Kamsa, you fool, the child who was killed you is already born in this world. So he lived in fear his whole life. Even though he was so powerful, it describes actually how powerful Kamsa was. In the Krishna book, it doesn't describe how powerful he was, but if you go back in the Puranas, you get an understanding. He was insanely powerful. You know that elephant Kuvalaya appeared? That Krishna kills him on the way into the wrestling arena where he kills Kamsa? That elephant, it took 10,000 other elephants to capture, or it might have been 100,000 elephants to capture that elephant. That's how powerful that elephant was. The first time Kamsa met that elephant, He threw him over a wall. That's how powerful Kamsa was. Picked up the elephant and threw him over a wall. You know, insanely powerful Kamsa was. But he was fearful because it was predicted that the 8th child would kill you. So when he saw Krishna and heard about him, he was terrified. And so if I don't know if any of us have had that experience, but if someone's out to kill you, it's a terrifying experience. You know, you don't know, walk around, you don't know, where's that person? Practically, you're going to think of that person all the time. Oh, where are they? Oh, when you're at school, if one of the older boys wants to beat you up, you think about that guy all the time. You're always walking around like, oh, where is he? Oh my God. So out of fear, and Prabhupada actually points this out, fear and envy, because Shishupal was envious of Krishna and Kamsa was fearful. The meditation's even stronger than those who have a conjugal rasa or other rasas with Krishna, because you can't stop thinking of him. But it's practical, it's not favorable, it's not the way we want to meditate on Krishna. So we should try to follow the footsteps of the gopis and the Brijbasis, not Kamsa and Shishupal. Don't think like that. Don't think of Krishna fearfully. We should. That's practical. That's unfavorable to our bhakti. It is not that Rupa Goswami or the Bhagavatam are recommending the development of inimical emotions towards Krishna. And for example, like Vena or Kamsa or Shishupal, but who had a hatred for God. We clearly see that it is not envy or fear of God which Narada recommends, but total absorption of the mind in him, even if out of envy or so there's so much to cover in this chapter, and we can't cover it all because there's just too much. We could, but there would be several classes just to cover all this. But lusty desire, it says there are 4 of the 6 types of attachment: fear, envy, respect, and obedient devotion, have been excluded from ragatmika bhakti. Only the remaining 2, lusty desire, kama rupa, and familiar relationship, sambandha rupa, are types of ragatmika bhakti. This is confirmed by Rupa Goswami's analysis. So in other words, that's the type of bhakti we want to cultivate. We want to follow in the footsteps of the Brijbasis or the gopis, according to what our mood is in our relationship with Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes from the Brahmanda Purana and the Bhagavatam to prove that the demons achieved only impersonal liberation or in Brahman. So in other words, although they were meditating on Krishna, they didn't go back to serve him in Goloka Vrindavan. That's why we have to focus on following in the footsteps of the Brijbasis, because if we do follow them in the mood of Raganuga Bhakti, that will lead us to eventually to Goloka Vrindavan. And that's our goal. We want to go to Goloka Vrindavan. So there are 6 basic methods of focusing the mind on Krishna, although all of them are liberating. Only Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa are genuine types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, Kama Rupa. Kama, lust, is the intense thirst to satisfy the senses. There are 2 types of Kama, material and spiritual. Material Kama is the intense thirst to satisfy one's own senses. Spiritual Kama is the intense thirst to satisfy Krishna's spiritual senses. This lust, this is from page 122 of the Nectar of Devotion. This lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. So, to serve the Lord in a particular capacity, this is Kama Rupa. Right? They want to serve Krishna with, that's why conjugal ras is considered to be the highest of all the rasas, because they can serve Krishna with all of their senses fully. So that's why it's considered the highest of all the rasas. So distinguishing mundane calm from transcendental calm or lust. The exchange of love between Krishna and the gopis resembles the embracing, dancing, and so forth. This causes some difficulty in the minds of conditioned souls. The difficulty is that the conditioned soul naturally tends to interpret things in the context of his own experience. In his experience, conjugal affairs, such as dancing and embracing, are manifestations of lust. Thus, when he hears about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, he misinterprets them in the context of mundane lust. So, we have to be careful of conditioned souls. We were actually explaining this last night in our Chaitanya Charitamrita class. We're getting very close to finishing chapter 8 of Madhya Lila, which is the Lord's Ramananda Samvad, the discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. That chapter is incredibly focused on conjugal ras, because that's what Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy were absorbed in their consciousness. And as we study that chapter, we have to be very careful. And when we study Nectar of Devotion, also these divine scriptures in the Bhagavatam, where there are descriptions, and the writings of the Goswamis, there are intimate descriptions, like in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, intimate descriptions of conjugal relationships between Krishna and Radha and the gopis. We have to be very careful that we approach that with the right mentality. That's why Bhagavatam is spoken in 12 cantos. Maharaj Parikshit doesn't go straight to Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and he doesn't go straight to Krishna's relationship with the gopis. We have to study the Bhagavatam categorically to purify our consciousness, so that when we get to the 10th canto, we understand Krishna as he is, as a spiritual entity, as God. He's not a lusty young man. Sometimes, and this is the problem, is that people in the material world, they misinterpret Krishna's pastimes as being based on material lust. Oh, he's dancing with so many girls. Yes, he's dancing with so many girls, but he's standing in between each girl. And actually, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says there are 3 billion gopis. So, okay, he's dancing with girls, but he's in 3 billion forms. Or, it's also described, while he's dancing with 3 billion, he's moving so quickly, there's only one Krishna, but he's moving so quickly in between all of them, it appears he's standing in between each one. So either way, he's completely extraordinary, right? So if we see him as mundane, you get an extension cord? Sorry. If we see him as mundane or ordinary, then we're going to misinterpret Krishna. In the white cupboard in the office. It'll be locked from that side though. If we understand Krishna in terms of his relationships, which appear to be mundane, then we will misinterpret Krishna's transcendental position, that it is completely free from any material inebriety. There's no lust in his pastime. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a very important point, that if we meditate on Krishna's pastimes in conjugal love with the gopis of Vrindavan, but we're not qualified to meditate on them, then what will happen is that the rasa that we're meditating on, Krishna's relationship with the gopis, it will turn into virasa. In other words, the conjugal pastimes, which are transcendental, instead of clearing or cleansing the lust from our heart, they will increase the mundane lust in our consciousness. So we have to be very careful when we approach Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, his conjugal pastimes, because the idea is that if we hear about Krishna's conjugal pastimes with the gopis, the lust in our heart should be decreasing. But if we feel it's the opposite, if we feel that when we hear about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, the lust in our heart is increasing, then we should stop hearing those pastimes. It means we're not qualified to hear them. And we should focus on hearing other parts of the Bhagavatam. And then when we do become qualified, and we do get proper qualification, then when we hear Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, it will purify our consciousness. It'll lift us up to a higher state of consciousness, a purified state of consciousness. So in other words, we have to be very careful that we only hear Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not discuss them publicly. Prabhupada also was very careful about discussing it publicly, the Acharyas, because if we don't have proper qualification, we will see it as mundane and it will contaminate our consciousness. So sometimes it seems that the residents of Vrindavan act for their own happiness, but factually, they only act for the Lord's pleasure. They know that Krishna takes pleasure when his devotee is pleased, and that is the only reason they sometimes seem to endeavor for their own happiness. So this lust or this calm, spiritual relationships are never lusty or selfish. When Srila Rupa Goswami says that Krishna's relationship with the gopis is lusty, kama rupa, he uses the word only figuratively to aid our basic understanding. Srila Prabhupada explains. This is from Nectar of Devotion, page 123. The gopis' ecstatic love for Krishna is sometimes described by scholars as being like the lusty desire of the material world. But actually, this should not be taken as a literal fact. It is simply a way of trying to understand the transcendental situation. So it just gives us an understanding. When we use the word calm, because we understand lust in this world, it helps us to understand Krishna's lust. But the Chaitanya Charitamrita says one is like gold, one is like iron. One is pure, and one is completely mundane and base. Right? There's no comparison between the two. Gopis are consumed and obsessed by a passion to satisfy Krishna, the force of which is beyond our ability to comprehend. By comparing it to mundane lust, the single most consuming urge in our experience, we may catch the slightest hint of the intensity of the gopis' desire to serve Krishna. We must understand very carefully that Krishna's conjugal love affairs are impeccably transcendental. Externally, they may resemble mundane lust, but internally, they are motivated exclusively by pure selfless prema. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, it is like a fire, it is like gold which has been purified in 1,000 fires. Right? When we get gold, raw gold, it may be alloyed. It may be mixed with other minerals. So we melt it. and then it turns into molten gold, and then the impurities are removed, and then you get pure gold, 24 karat gold. So if you repeat that process 1,000 times, you're going to have pure, pure, pure gold. So it says that's what the love of the gopis is like. It is like spontaneous attraction to Krishna, which has been purified 1,000 times. Right? There is no material inebriety there. There's no selfishness there. Right? It is completely transcendental. Right? It is only for the service and the pleasure of Krishna's senses. And I think we've explained before, Srimati Radharani in the mornings in Varshana or Javat, she is decorated by her friends, her Sakis and the Manjaris. And while she's being decorated, there's a large mirror in front of her. And she looks in that mirror and she sees herself. And she thinks, there is no one as beautiful as me. Therefore, no one else can give Krishna as much pleasure as I can. Therefore, this form and all the beauty within it is simply meant for Krishna's pleasure. It's free from ego. You know, when we look in the mirror, we might think something very different. But when Srimati Radharani is not egotistical, but she thinks, you know, she sees, no one is more beautiful, but all of this is meant for the pleasure, for the service of Krishna's senses. And she even says that Caitanya Mahaprabhu explains in the final verse of Shikshastika, Aslisha va padavritam pinashtumam adashanam mama hatam karotu va itatata va vidadatu lampaton prananatas tusa eva na paraha. Lord Chaitanya says, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, whether you handle me roughly by your embrace or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me, still you are my Lord, birth after birth. Whether you make me broken-hearted, what makes someone broken-hearted? If you see your lover, your wife, your husband, your lover, with another person, embracing them, that breaks your heart. That is called heartbreak. Srimati Radharani says, even if you make me heartbroken, if I see you with another gopi, that is my greatest pleasure. If that gives you more happiness than embracing me, that is my greatest pleasure. But Srimati Radharani thinks, that's why she always tries to bring Krishna to her. Why? Not for herself, but she knows no one else can give Krishna as much pleasure. So I will bring him to me. Right? And that's why her associates and assistants always try to help her in that regard. So on page 123, as evidence of the gopis' transcendental purity, Srila Rupa Goswami cites the great devotee Uddhava. Although completely free from all attraction to mundane love affairs, Uddhava glorified the gopis' love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada adds the example of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the strict sannyasi, who also praised the gopis' love of Krishna. If the gopis were affected by mundane sex desire, these two stalwart personalities would never have praised them. Right? So why would a sannyasi, a genuine sannyasi, you know, Radhanath Swami, Devarita Swami, Jayapataka Swami, Kadambakanan Swami, Tamil Krishna, you know, all these very advanced sannyasis, Prabhupada himself, you know, why would they be interested hearing about a girl and a boy associating together if it wasn't completely spiritual and transcendental? So if a sannyasi like Lord Chaitanya is relishing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna associating together intimately, this shows it must be transcendental. And Uddhava is the other example. We know that Uddhava was the topmost devotee in Dwarka. And yet, he was stunned when he saw the bhakti of the gopis of Vrindavan and Srimati Radharani. He was stunned, and then he realized, he thought to himself, I have no devotion. I thought no one could love Krishna more than me. Which sometimes we think, how can someone love that person more than I do? But then you meet someone who does, and then you're humbled. You think, oh, this devotee has so much love for Krishna. So when he met the gopis, he thought, I don't have love. I want to become a kundalata. I just want to become a creeper on the ground next to the kund. When they pass by, and I'll get the dust of their feet, they'll stand on my head. That was his humility after he met the gopis. So then to finish this chapter, to further highlight the exalted purity of the gopis' love for Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions Kubja, whose attraction to Krishna was not as pure as the gopis. The selfish desire that slightly tinged her attraction excluded her from the category of Kama Rupa and relegated her to the lesser status of Kama Praya, almost lusty desire. So that pastime where Krishna goes to Mathura, and Kubja, she sees him and she's attracted to him, and there's some spiritual element to her attraction, but there's also some slight desire for lust. She says, come back to my house and we'll enjoy together. So there's some slight lusty desire. But then Krishna purifies her of that lust, and then she becomes a completely pure devotee, which is what we also pray for. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about anything that we discussed tonight? I hope it's all clear. So next week, we will continue with chapter 16, which is the second half of the second chapter in regards to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll see you next week. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming.